Good evening, Survivor Rites. Hello, hello. It is Wednesday night, and we are live tonight with my friend Ted Harris. I am so excited. I've interviewed you a couple times, but never on Survivor, and we have so much to talk about. So, first of all, I want to thank you for the gospel beating that you handed out on Sunday. That was just awesome. Not to downplay your companion at all, but
Oh, it was great. His
that
so
was very
much
enjoyable.
fun.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. I hope it was encouraging.
It is. It is. So, Ted Harris, we have so much to talk about. I'm going to just kind of jump right in. Most people watching tonight know you for making them laugh. And you do it really, really well, obviously. But for everybody watching, especially men, I specifically, my first question is what would you want every man watching to know about depression and that it's okay and that we'll get through it? Because that's a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that's real and definitely much more prevalent in men. And I think often you talk with people who are leaving this system, they can be a little more susceptible to it, not because God is taking their peace away, as the workers might want you to think or something, but yeah, because you are so used to this system that answers all of these questions and provides you this certainty. And when you finally understand that you have to step free of that, that can leave a lot of empty space. I think it's very similar, when people treat addiction. Like you take away the alcohol or the pills, it doesn't magically give you recovery. So yeah, I think depression is a very large term. And I think one of the mistakes people can make is assuming that the label of depression means the same thing for everybody who experiences it. I think what
Right.
most people experience as symptoms of depression can come from a whole variety of causes. For some people, it's environmental. For some people, it's maybe unresolved trauma. For other people, it's just they don't know why. I think it's the chemical imbalance. And I'm certainly no guru or expert. I mean, all I can really talk about is my experience with it and what's worked for me. So,
Yep. Well, I think that that's one of the things I have in previous interviews with you said you're our modern day two by two Robin Williams in a lot of ways. And I'm so glad you're with us. I know that you have battled depression. I know that it has been something that you have struggled with. One of the reasons that I started Survivor Rights or kept it going after I started it was to have these conversations, to have difficult conversations. I'm not a therapist. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do with their life at all. But I think the more we talk about it, it's kind of one of those things. If Ted Harris can deal with this, maybe I can too. And I hate to put that on you, but literally, my friend Daryl Johnson texted me earlier today and he said, I'm going to quote him, there is only one Ted Harris.
I guess
I
we're
said,
lucky
yep,
for that.
isn't that the truth? What?
Daryl's a great guy.
What did you He is. Well, he went on to say, what struck me even when you were young was your insight and comfort with calling circumstances what they were, unfiltered. So that is really where I want to go with this conversation because I do feel like that sums you up in a really good way. I have been really lucky to get to know you on the reality side of life, not just on the humor side of life, even just a little bit. And I really, really value your perspective because I do think that you see things in a really unique way. And that's
Thanks.
really what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is not only your own personal experience, but also the way you see things unfolding and where we're going from here. So we're going to get into all that. Hi, everybody that's out there watching. We have a big crowd tonight.
Wow.
Yes, everybody's loving on you. So let's start out with when you first realized that laughter wasn't just entertainment for you, but it was more of a survival mechanism.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think part of it's just sort of our personality, how we're wired. Yeah, and I think one of the things I found is a way to relate to my peers socially at a young age, like in elementary school, because I didn't have a TV, didn't go to movies. So a lot of the things my friends would talk about, sort of the social currency, did you see E.T. or Transformers or Ghostbusters, or did you watch the 49ers game or whatever?
Mhm.
I couldn't be a part of that conversation. So I found a way to maybe even change the subject is, to make jokes, to be funny, that sort of thing. And it just, yeah, you kind of find your groove, you find what makes people laugh, and it feels good. Yeah, I was watching, how's that comedian's name? Is it Jack Benny, the old guy from way back, and he played the sheriff in Smokey and the Bandit. But anyway, I was watching an interview with him on the Tonight Show from years and years ago, Johnny Carson, and just talking about that. The first time you get a couple people to laugh, it really is this rush, and you're like, yeah, I want to keep doing that.
Well, you're very, very good at, and we're going to talk a lot about that when we get to that part of the show tonight. But I, you sent me a picture. We were having a conversation getting ready for the show, and you sent me a picture this afternoon. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to share it. And this was you said this was a selfie that I took on my worst day. So let me share that very quickly, if I can. I think I've
Yeah.
got it open here. Um, maybe, maybe not. You know what? I will put it in the comments for people, because I can do that right here.
Okay.
What I want to know, can you share it? Otherwise, I will. Maybe I'll
Right.
put it in after the
On my
fact.
computer. Yeah.
I don't know why it's not letting me. Oh, well.
That's okay. I
Okay.
can't remember the name of that comedian I was trying to think of. It's not Jack Benny. Anyway.
Got it. So you are a very public guy, but in a lot of ways, you're a teacher, you're out there, you've been doing shows now for quite a while. And so with that though, depression can be very isolating. Do you use it as a mask?
Uh, no, not really. I mean, I've been, I sent you that picture. I was saying that was just lowest point in my life, spring of 2020.
Yeah.
Uh, my mom had died. This career I'd been in, farming for about 8 years, was really just not working out financially. I was miserable. I hated it. And COVID was in full swing then. And it was just absolutely miserable. And I guess looking at that picture, and the reason I shared it with you was because I think, one of the things that just sucks so much about depression is how much it takes over everything, your perception, your perspective. You
Yeah.
have to try to fix what's broken with what's broken, and being able to have some sort of optimism or creativity that, I didn't have that at the time, and a little bit of that would have helped me see that there's other things I can do, there's a way out of this. And that's, I think, I look at that picture, and it's this kind of, I don't, it's paralyzing. It feels like you're in this prison with no way out. And that's what always strikes me about it, because if you have, um, almost any other kind of illness or disease, you're able to, if I'm in bed with the flu, or I have a broken arm, or even if I've got, some kind of cancer, you're able to have some kind of objectivity about that, this is something,
Right.
these are my treatment options, this is going to get better, or whatever, this is going to change. And with depression, it's different. I think it's similar to addiction in that way, is that it's kind of telling you you don't have it. At the same time, it's telling you, like, this isn't a disease, this is just the way things are. And that to me is the hardest part of it, because it's so hard to think your way or reason your way out of that in
Yep.
that time.
I could concur 100%. I've been there. I remember that day as well in my own life. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So that's part of the reason that I wanted to start this conversation, this first Unbroken show of the month with you about this, because it is so taboo, or we don't talk about it. We certainly didn't grow up talking about it in the 2 by 2 church, that's for sure. And I know that one of the first times I reached out to you, I was just like, I don't even know what to do for some of these people who are coming to me, and women who were really struggling. And so, it was just, you were one of the people that I felt like I could reach out to get a little bit of support on what on earth we could possibly do to help them navigate this and stay alive. And so I want to thank you for that, because it's been 3 years now that we've been having this conversation. So for those of you that are out there, this is an ongoing long-term thing. So when he's not being funny, he's a helpful guy. For those of you who don't know him personally, I would recommend that you do so. One of the things that I enjoy most about you, Ted, is that you're a dad. You are such just a joyful father. You are someone that obviously was born to be a dad. Talk to us about what that means, what your son has taught you about joy and life in general.
Yeah, I feel really lucky, to be a father. For a long time, I just didn't really see it. Yeah, friends would have kids, and I'd be like, why? Why would you have what? Like, I didn't get it. Yeah, and so yeah, I had my son was born, when I was in my late 30s. By the time some of the people I grew up with had kids that were almost grown up, and there were some difficulties, some infertility issues. So we were really lucky to arrive where we did. And I always think of that moment. I think a lot of parents can probably relate. It'd been a long labor process over 24 hours, and just all the intensity, watching my wife just in so much pain and misery, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And you'd been planning on it, thinking about nothing else about it. We're going to have a kid, we're going to have a kid, we're getting stuff ready. And then, when she reached the doctor, kind of pulled his head, and he came out upside down and turned him over. And I saw his face for the first time. It was like, like I said, I think most parents can relate. It's just like the most amazing thing. Like, I might as well, up to that point, have never known that I was going to have a kid, because it was so mind blowing. And that's been the experience of being a parent from that. I don't always get it right, but I think one of the things that really has helped. I've obviously got an awesome wife, but I don't know. I think my parents, for as imperfect as they were in little ways, raising me in the church, I don't hold that against them. But I think what I took from both of my parents, both in different ways, was just this absolute unconditional love from them. And my mom's gone now, but my dad's still alive and 82 years young. And even though he and I have very different personalities, we've clashed a lot. Just that is always there with him. It was always there with my mom, and I didn't ever think it could be any other way. Friends would describe their parents like, "What? Your mom said that to you? Like, how can you what?" And I think especially in the church we were raised in, I think a lot of it almost sounds like kind of the exception to have two parents that just give you unconditional love, and so I think that's really what's made it easy is having that from my parents, and and an awesome wife too. She's great. So, but yeah, having kids is great.
Well, I just enjoy watching all of your fun things that you guys do together, and you always just have the biggest smile on your face, and so does he. Like you just, I can see the love between you. So, fatherhood suits you, that's for sure.
You know what he does
Um,
though? Like every couple of weeks, he's like, "Hey, Dad, remember that time you made me spend the night in that motel room where that guy died?" And I didn't tell him before because I thought it might freak him out. I told him afterwards, like the next morning when we were driving, and I was like, funny story. So I guess, it'll give him something to talk about in therapy when he gets older. Because, there's
well, that
nothing
leads me
worse than when
straight to
you're in
my next
therapy and there's
question.
that awkward silence and you're like, what do I talk? And so that's my gift to him, I guess.
That's your gift to him, spending that night in that room. Oh my Lord. Okay, let's talk about that night in that room because we all want to know, like, what on earth made you even decide you would do that? Like, I would have never even thought of something like that, let alone been able to pull it off and then video myself doing it. So that's what I want to know. Like,
Yeah, it was
and
funny.
yes,
Like
he'll probably
it
say,
really like it wasn't something I planned. Like I think maybe like a week out. Like we were it was summer break. My wife had to stay and work, so we're like, well, we were gonna go see a friend of mine in Seattle, and then it's like, well, on a road trip, so we can go through Oregon. So what do we want to see? We want to go to Crater Lake, and I was like, hey, look, government camp. That's it. Yeah, okay. I was like, hey, that would be funny to say at the Best Western. Why not? And then Samuel Walker, loved the guy. He's in the Millstone, the X2x2 group. He's like, something,
yes.
state. You looked it up. It's room 215. Like, yeah, yeah, why not? So I requested it.
Yeah.
I called them, can I get room? They're like, sure, yeah, whatever. It's funny, like stuff like that doesn't bother me. Like I'm not superstitious or anything
Right.
at all. So yeah, I just thought it was funny. Like it started out as just really wanting to poke him in the eye. Like, because, I remember when he died, it was like, Gandhi had died, or I don't know, Mother Teresa, just whoever you can think.
Yes.
I remember family members
Yes.
texting me like, "Oh, Dean Brewer died. He was so," and just seeing like pictures from his funeral, and saw like notes, all the, you'd think this guy had like cured cancer and brought peace, and I mean, it was sickening. And I knew when I lived in Bozeman, grew up in Bozeman, went to college there. He was a worker there, and the guy was just this sleazeball, like just. It was right when I was on my way out. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'd go to gospel meeting like maybe once every 3 weeks just to kind of keep the heat off. And, he'd be up there and be like, well, I was talking to this minister of another church, and he doesn't know God the way we know God. Just this pompous ass and just oily. I don't know. But so, and I think the, so, I mean, the whole story is just kind of too perfect, this supposed to be this
Yes.
penniless, homeless guy in a motel. So it's hard not to laugh at it. Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and then when that came out, it was like, the dam broke. So that was my original thing. I was just like, I just want to like, like I said, just poke him in the eye. Like, remember the guy you all loved and
Yeah.
worshiped? Like, but then I started
Oh,
working on like what I wanted to say, and then it got like really. I worked on it for like 2 or 3 days. I was like, I'm feeling this. And then like something shifted where it was way different.
Yeah. Well, there is no better person that could have done what you did than you. No one. I mean, it was epic, Ted. I mean, I don't even know how many times I've watched it because it was just one of those. Yes. Ron Walton, Room 215 video was the best. The best. For people who don't know, you do run a satirical site here on Facebook called Millstone. So if anybody's out there that doesn't know that or isn't on it, you've got to be able to seriously laugh at this stuff because it's meant to be funny. It's not meant to be offensive to anybody else. You're going there for humor. You're going there to be offended, okay? So let's just get that off the table that you got to have a sense of humor if you're going to go to your site, Ted. I would strongly encourage anybody that hasn't to do that. He regularly does gospel beatings with his sister worker friend. Who Mr. Boyd is also quite interesting and humorous. You guys together are awesome. So anyway, so I wanted to know like when you got there, that was my question. My question is, this is how I wrote it. Was it emotional, spiritual, or symbolic when you walked into that room? Or like all of it together? Was it just weird?
Uh, it was, at first it was just hilarious. Like, again, I just, like, I don't want to use the term dancing on someone's grave because that doesn't fit it because that wasn't what it is, but it was more about just the absurdity and insanity that worker worship is and how
Yes.
it really reached a crescendo with him.
Yes.
And, hopefully there will never be that again because of all of this. Probably will be, but not that. So I think it was, yeah, it wasn't like, celebrating the death by any means, but it was more of
Right.
just like, it wasn't so much that he died in there, but I guess what died with him, and that hopefully that's what it is. And so it was more at first when I got there, it was just kind of funny. It was like a little kid when you get to a motel room and you jump on the bed. Like I was sitting on one side of the couch, was this the side he was on? Went to the other side, was this the side he was on? Yeah, kind of just more of I don't know, excitement of a historical site or something. It was just
Yeah.
like I said, just the whole absurdity and insanity that
Right.
is the worship of workers that creates this power that they have where they can commit all of this abuse and enables all of this corruption. You can't not laugh at it, I think. You can't not
Yeah.
just be like,
I
it's
totally
it's
agree.
insane. And then I got like really locked in. I got mad because then it was like, okay, yeah, the funny thing, it's not really funny. It's disgusting, and that's when I really I got locked in, and I went through and I did that video, and it was. Yeah, it was cool. It resonated with people. It spread
It sure did.
really quickly. But yeah, I think that sort of describes my process, just how, yeah, the,
You were the
uh,
perfect person. It was awesome. Um, I just also want to say, now that some time has passed, Cynthia, Natalie, and I talk about this a lot, and Steve Patton, that we've kind of all found our lanes. Everybody kind of, we now know who's doing what, and everybody kind of each we have our thing. And without you doing your thing and adding that humor side of it, and just like you literally take it to the absurd level in a way that is, it just is because you're telling the truth. Like that was one of the things that, like, at what point in your life did you realize I'm funny because I speak the truth? And sometimes that is exactly why it is so damn funny. And you do it so well. And sometimes you do it with a straight face and sometimes not. But either way, Ted, it's so on point. I've never seen anything that you've done that I haven't just laughed hysterically at or thought, "Oh my goodness." You have the courage sometimes to just go for it. I love it. Um, the other question that I had about you for that was, did it feel like closure, confrontation, justice, or something else entirely? Because I think for all of us, I will speak for myself. Again, I can only speak for myself ever. For me, it was closure. For me, you doing what you did and going to that room, I felt like it was the nail in the coffin for me. And I was like, you know what, asshole, where you're done with you, you know? I didn't even think that I needed closure on something like that, but I think I kind of did. Did you feel that way after the fact? I would be curious for those watching how it made you feel, like, because I didn't expect closure to be the thing that I took away from it, but I would have to say
Yeah,
for myself.
yeah, I think for me, I had sort of a similar experience about a year earlier when a family member confronted me about doing this stuff, and it was just the absurdity of that they were more concerned that I was mocking this church than it was with kind of the abuse and the corruption, uh, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse, and that the sort of moral and spiritual high ground these people have assumed to have that they never did for so long just isn't there anymore. Like it's so it's so clear, and I think they, even if they don't want to admit it, I think deep down they know that they're standing on something that's foundations are pretty rotten, and so I think that's part of what that was about too was because there was that's what the very judgmental types, the types that make it so hard for so many people to leave, that's what they really, I think, fuels them, is this, like I said, this perceived moral superiority that, they have the right to say, you're not right with God, you said you would do this and now you're not. And, like they can really take you to task. And when the dam broke after the Dean Brewer thing and all these other, the whole thing just kind of got caught up in a wave. That's what was the closure, like you're saying, the nail in the coffin. So for me, that was just kind of affirming that as a way of just saying, like, you don't have this
You have no
power
power. Yeah.
anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's a new
Right.
day. It's like when
Yeah.
you know, the Montana State Bobcats beat the University of Montana Grizzlies in the FCS semifinal this last year. Like, all my life I grew up with them being the better team. And then when we beat them and went on to win the national championship, it was like, that's a monkey off my back to bring in a sport.
There you go.
But that's what's just so very freeing or liberating about that, and I think about that moment and why I spent a lot of time kind of putting together what I wanted to say to try to really make it clear that Brewer was not some outlier, just one bad apple, but yeah, he was the system, what the system produces,
Yep.
feature, not a bug, that this, and then that's what the system produces over and over again. And yeah,
Yeah. Totally. Totally. I really go Bobcats go. Yes, I agree, Fran. Um,
you said that? Okay.
I Fran Christensen,
Okay. Yeah. Go Cats.
Fran Jarvis. You probably know her as Fran Jarvis.
Okay.
Um, anyway, Yeah, you'll be able to see the comments after the fact. But I totally agree with that. And then one of the interesting things is I had somebody come at me and went at a bunch of people a couple of weeks ago. And then when I kicked him out and banned him, he went straight to my DMs, you know? And it was like, how do you think you can have this group and kick people out? I'm like, well, how do you think you can go to meeting and kick people out? Like, they have such a double standard. It blows my mind. Like, I literally was just looking at my phone laughing, like, seriously, dude?
Yeah,
You
no,
still haven't
I'm
got
actually just
promo?
looking. I got some messages. I got is like, wow, aren't you the strong one? You know, they're trying to flip the exclusivity thing back on. Oh my God.
Whatever. Yeah,
Live your
let's
life,
go.
buddy. Do what you need to do.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Um,
I
Tell me
want to
about
say
when you
one
left.
more. I want to say one more
Yeah,
thing that I failed to articulate earlier because I think for me, the ultimate release, talking about that interaction with a family member the previous summer was, I left, I think you left many years ago. I left in 1997. And I felt like between 1997 and whenever the Brewer stuff came out, like I always need to explain myself. I always needed to prove to people that, look, this, I need to let you know this is how it is for me. And, you may disagree, but yeah, and it's like and that for me was it's like, no, I don't need to explain shit to you. I don't need to, that was I think the big like I don't owe you anything. Like I don't care what you
yes.
think about me because you don't have that high ground and I'm not gonna pretend like you do anymore. So that's I think that was the and I
Family
don't
or
know
not.
why you ever think you do owe them something, but I guess there is that desire to prove to them or to show them somehow that this is okay. This was the right decision, even though you don't think it is. I want you to think it is, and
Yep. Well, and I find it interesting, honestly, Ted, for as many people as I have met now doing this, I have met very few people, for those of us who did leave years ago, we all had very good reason. We all saw what has finally come to light. I don't
yeah,
know anybody that just walked away for the fun of it. Not one single person.
you're
It's
right.
because we saw and felt and knew in our souls what is come to light now. And so at that time, yes, it was a much harder to walk away. But at the same time, I agree with you. We've been explaining ourselves forever. And now we don't have to anymore. It feels really, really good to just be like,
Absolutely.
dude, are you serious?
Yeah,
Because,
it's
yeah,
the
no.
old let them theory.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 1000%. I got it tattooed on both of my hands for that reason exactly.
Love it.
But when you did leave, what was the hardest thing about leaving back then? Was it just explaining yourself 9 times over?
Yeah, I think the hardest part was with my father, and we talked about it since we buried the hatchet. He's definitely
Okay.
um, he sees things a lot differently now. But that for my mom was very accepting, supportive. She understood at that point, even though she was still in it. But yeah, I think that was just the hardest thing because there's this I think one of the things that makes it hard is even though leaving I knew leaving is what I need to do. You also know, having been in the system, believing what they believe, what they're going to think, how they're going to take it. I remember when I was younger hearing people leave, and it was just like, "Oh no! Like, how could you get?" And so, yeah, so I think that for me was the single hardest part, and yeah, it was difficult, but I mean, time heals, and in a very short period, we got along just
Yeah.
fine. And like I said, that unconditional love piece is what's there, even in
Yeah.
spite of stuff,
You're
that's
lucky.
stronger than. Yeah, I know.
You're very, very lucky. Because
Yes.
even now, there's no unconditional love going to happen in many of our lives.
Yeah.
Um, They don't. I don't even think they know what that is, honestly, and that's the saddest part. It just breaks my heart for so many people that, I mean, the level of atrocity and the depth and breadth of the pain and suffering. On days, there's so many days that I think, oh man, it would be so much easier if I don't need to do this anymore. Like, people will figure it out. We figured it out. And man, then the very next day, it's like something else happens, and I'm like, nope, I can't. I'll end up doing this the rest of my life, and I would love to not have to do this anymore. That would be amazing. That we all just were happy and healthy and didn't need to deal with any of this. But the damage is so far and wide, and the layers just keep on coming. And so that piece of it is painful for sure. So go ahead.
No, sorry, I was
What'd
just
you say?
agreeing. I was just
Yes, painful. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you have coming down the pike next. Like, how do you come up with all this stuff? What happens in your brain that you're like, okay, I've been that guy long enough. Now I'm going to be a sister worker. Like, are you
yeah.
going to be a sister
I
worker for
just
a while? Can we expect this?
one of the things I need to do
Are you
is get
married?
one of the things I need to do is get the YouTube channel back up. I hit all the videos on there because my students kept finding it, and it just I don't like whatever, but just it was just awkward to explain. Yeah, how do you explain the context of it? It's just so I am very shortly. I'm going to put together a sheet with the links so it won't be public, but people can pass the sheet with the links around and do that because I know like there's a lot of people still in the church who watch them, and it makes me a little uncomfortable. Kind of the I think like how much people you know have found them helpful or useful. I mean, I'm glad it is, but it's also like, I don't want to be sort of like fall into kind of the worker worship thing or something. But Mike Oxlong wants to be worshipped. But yeah, it's funny. The the worker stuff. I think I was telling you the Mike Oxlong character, the one that the perfect day to be in
Yes.
the perfect way guy. Like I have
Yes.
never found that character funny. Like I always
Right.
feel
You
like
did tell me
very
that.
kind of disgusted after that because to me
Yes.
it is just so much in line with the way these workers are, how sleazy and manipulative they are. Yeah, I was talking with Daryl the other day. We talked about Daryl already, but talking with like how much I kind of modeled that personality on Howard Mooney, who I think pour one out for Uncle Howard. But just how I think in some ways he really embodied sort of the high water mark of the two by two church in the Northwest. Yeah, and so for maybe as well meaning as he might have been, just what a kind of there was another podcast. I'm really going off on a tangent here. I think his name is David Alink. Is that how you say his last name? He
David
does.
A. Link. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
From a Christian perspective, and yeah, I'm not
Yes.
practicing Christian, but I do enjoy his perspective. And he was looking at a sermon um, with another guy. They were just kind of breaking it down. I think it was like from 1970, a Great Falls special meeting. And so I went back and looked at it, and it was just a master class in sort of closed loop thinking and spiritual gaslight. Just a rhetorical masterpiece in a lot of ways. I teach 11th grade rhetoric, and so it was just like, wow, this guy is so good. But just this over and over this what do you call the circular reasoning, if the way is perfect, and because it's a perfect way, we know that it's God's way, and we know that we're chosen, and if there's some if there's a fault, if there's something that's not working for you, it's because you aren't doing, whatever. And I remember the guy quite a bit when I was younger. It was always a big deal. I mean, you remember him?
No, I didn't
Oh,
come west till after Lowell. Well, I moved out right before when Lowell was sick. Lowell started off. My uncle
okay.
was sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, him. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And so, he was very, I mean, people liked him. I mean, the worship word, I think it was for better reasons than someone like Dean Brewer. I think for the most part, Howard was positive. He wasn't, was try to find the joy. I don't know. But it just, even from a young age, like it really struck me like, wow, people are just in awe of this guy. And yeah, I
Yeah.
remember he was staying with us once, and like I was maybe 12 or something. I'd like done a little bit of babysitting, maybe with my sister. And so I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna give him some money. That's what you do for the workers. So I had this $5 bill, and I handed it to him. And I had just the way his eyes lit up, and just like the way it went is like, it just took $5 from a 12-year-old dude. He's probably worth millions and millions. But little things, and at first I just felt so proud. And then even like later that week or something, I really wanted something at the store. I was like, I kind of wish I had that $5. But anyway, I don't know. I just, yeah, so that's why I think, something about that character, like getting back to my point, like I've never found
Yes.
him
Well,
funny, just kind of sleazy and gross and manipulative. And, just saying the
it's super
thing.
positive.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's that. The really old worker guy, that one really cracks me up. I have to. I tell the story about the mule that wouldn't let, that cracks me
Yes.
up more than anything because I don't know, I just knew there were so many workers like that, and uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then we did that thing on Sunday with the old sister workers. That was
Yes.
pretty funny. We were just
That was
earlier
fun.
today. We were talking about what we want to do next. We're thinking of maybe going the convention testimonies, going back and forth, like all the different
Oh,
sort of tropes of people who test it. But it's
very
fun,
fun.
and I think it's for me one of the things that it gets hardwired in your subconscious when this stuff is just beaten into you from before you can
Yep.
remember the conditioning of just the workers were just treated like these little gods, and it didn't matter how boring they were in meetings, how mean they were to you, when a sister worker grabs your arm so hard at convention because you're shouting between meetings and it hurts for the rest of or just whatever. None of that stuff
Yep.
mattered. You couldn't say it. And, you just had to get in line, keep your mouth shut. And just so many just awful people. Like I remember this special meeting, maybe when I was in high school, and Dan Hilton. I mean, talk about evil pieces of shit. Dan Hilton was up there, and he was a guy, at the time. Oh, Dan Hilton's going to be here, and he had stayed with some friends of ours. One of my best friends was my age, had this Michael Jordan poster in his room. Really cool, Jordan, like life size, arms
Mhm.
spread out, and
Yep.
some William Blake quote. And he got up there and said, talking about it. He's like, do you have any idea how hard it is to pray with a black man looking down at you? And just, everybody was like, and you can't say anything about that. You can be like, hey, that wasn't right. And so I think just my point is like being able to satirize the workers, mock them is
Mhm.
just this very therapeutic thing, layer after layer, because, they were, like I said, they were little gods, and to question or
Yep.
criticize or, even just say, well, that was a boring ass meeting. What was he talking about?
Yep.
That's blasphemy, right? And so
Right.
just this pressure of like, I shouldn't even be thinking that.
Yep.
I'm going to go to hell. And that might sound kind of weird to someone not raised in a fundamentalist system like that, but it really creates some funny patterns of thinking. And so I think that is sort of the liberation for me. Every time that I do that, there's sort of releases a little bit more. I think for a lot of people watching it, they have a similar experience too.
Well, we do when we watch you, that's for sure. And I just, I'm not funny naturally. It's just, I mean, I don't know. I'm sarcastic, but I'm not funny.
Well, that's a good
um,
place to
and
start.
well, it's just one of those things that people. I just love the way that you nurture it. And obviously, so it makes me wonder how your mind works. But that's also why I really wanted to start with depression, because I don't think the average person would look at you and think that you have ever battled depression.
Hmm.
And that it is something very, very real in your life that you deal with. And that this is a way for you, it's a coping mechanism. And that's why I also want to just put that out there. Like, it is a coping mechanism for so many people. I mean, go to any comedy club in the world, they make fun of people. That's what comedy does. It's not like you have created this, monster of a thing specifically to take down the two by two church. You're just doing what comedians do. That's what comedians do. Make fun of people, period. If you
Yeah, and
can't
just
take it, don't watch.
punch up, don't punch down. And I mean, I think that's the beauty of satire is
Yeah, don't
punching
worry
up,
about it. Move on.
going after power structures instead of, you know, so that's.
Exactly. I have a few more questions, but I want to know if anybody out there, you guys have questions. Yes, Howard Mooney. It was so nice that you could leave that treasure in heaven for Howard Mooney. Yes. And Brad is going to be parenting lots of cucumbers. I saw that back.
Cucumbers, oh boy. Yes.
This is the thing is I think that we all chuckled. Like we took the beating and it was just hilarious. And I think we've all been laughing all week long about it. It just here and
Yeah,
there, you do something and it's like, oh yeah, that was funny. But what it does do is it reframes it in our brain. It moves it over to the humor category and it's like we were just talking, it switches something in your brain and it makes it from being something that was hurtful to something that's now funny and you can make fun of it. And that is a very healing and very, very
exactly. Yeah.
they
And what
write
better,
yes.
it's not very two by two to toot my horn here, but what better term than gospel beating, you know?
Oh, love it.
That's
It
what they
is
were.
ideal.
That's what they were.
Yeah, oh, but Ron Walton is literally saying they wrote and write the script for you. Like you don't have to
Yeah,
go very far. And that's why we
exactly.
all know
Yeah.
it's so it resonates so deeply is because we've all heard every word and you look like it's just I don't know. I just think that the fact that you guys are willing to do that and it just is awesome. And I did have one of my questions for you. Was your wife professing? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
No, no,
Is she?
no,
I didn't think so.
no.
Okay.
She's um
What a blessing.
yeah, it's interesting because, she kind of her perspective on things, she's always been kind of interested in cults and those sort of dynamics and high control groups. And so it's just, and it's funny because I'm like, why would I want to learn about that? But, she'll talk about, whatever book she's reading or podcast, about whatever, whether it's like Rastafarianism or some Muslim
Right.
thing or whatever, LDS. It's like, oh yeah, wow, that there's some very, very similar traits between all of
Oh,
these
yes.
groups. And it's just like, yeah, they're not even original. That's the thing. It's just
No.
kind of one cliche after another. And
Yes. It is. Kelly
it's just,
Graves and I were talking earlier today. Yeah, it's like she's talking with a guy that's Mormon, ex-Mormon, and because he's gay, so of course he's an ex because he can't be gay and Mormon. But it's there's so much alignment on the purity culture piece of it, I guess is the best way to say that. But it's just and we thought we were so special. And like we were just saying, I said there's such a big wide world out there. Like when you do step outside the system, it's hard for them to comprehend why we would do that. Why are we so happy out here? Why, like, how is that even possible? Well, it's because they have no idea how amazing the world can be and how much there is to do and see and experience and how many cultures and how many different religions and how many ways of thinking and how many ways of communicating and getting along and not judging and like
Not
loving one
choosing
another
to
and
be
just having a good
miserable and
time.
pretending that you're not. Yeah, I was talking
Yes.
to an acquaintance recently, who's still in the church, and yeah, I was. It just like my point was like, do you ever wonder why pretty much nobody who leaves comes back? Like, does that not ever kind of make you stop and think that if this really is what you say it is, what you think it is, that you would think that if we spend a day or two outside the wire, we'll be, oh, we got to get back. It was like, no, it's like there is a reason why 99% of the people who leave never come back.
And never will. Um, Dana Bone is wondering if you're related to Wayne Harris from
No,
Oregon.
that
No.
was an easy one.
Okay. Um, the black humor is the ice. Oh, yeah. Skating the ice of two by two shunning. Yes. You are such a refreshing moment to all of us. Everybody's sending you love on all of those things. But yeah, I just think that it's wild. So speaking of people who are still in meeting, I want to say, because I know that a lot of people in meeting do watch you, so they may be watching this tonight. One of my final questions for you is what would you say to the version of yourself if you were still sitting in meeting trying to make peace with things that never felt right? Like, what would you say to that person that's still sitting there trying to reconcile all this some way in their minds? Besides run.
Yeah, run like hell. Yeah, I think. I mean, speaking of I don't think the two by twos have ever said it, but you hear it like with the Mormons and other people where they say, doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith. Something along the lines, the opposite of that, trust your doubts. All right. And I know that's what I would tell myself. And that is antithetical to everything I had been raised, indoctrinated to believe. But if this thing is what it claims to be, then it should be able to stand up to a little scrutiny, a little questioning. You should be able to step away from it and say, okay, yeah, no, I can't live without it. I need this in my life. And that's the thing I would say. Pressure test it, because that was, I think, when I was probably 17 or 18, I started to see where it was going. But, there's just all that conditioning, like I said, indoctrination that kind of builds in this safety mechanism for the group to keep you from wanting to think about that stuff, really consider what needs to be considered. And that's what I would say. If it really is what it's supposed to be, then you should be able to ask the questions, talk to people, do whatever you need to do. And if it is like I keep saying, if it is what it's supposed to be, then you'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
This is what I want to be a part of. Yeah, and if it's not, it's not. So that I think that's what I would tell myself. And it's but it's blasphemy to say trust yourself, but it's true. Your body's trying to tell you something.
Yep, it is. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with having compassion for people who are still in. And I know that you are, even though you are a very funny guy, you are a very kind man. And I value that in you, and appreciate that very, very much. So, if there's any words of wisdom that you would have on people having compassion for people, because I think that they're still in the anger stage. Like there's all these stages of grief, and there's a lot of people still stuck in that anger stage. And I'm just hoping that they don't stay stuck there and keep moving through the stages. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Uh,
think it's yeah. We live in a culture that really feeds into that. We're so polarized politically, sort of us against them, and I think it takes kind of a conscious effort every day. And absolutely, I mean, I think it's important to remember that we all once felt the way the people still in the church do, and that we can treat people with respect and kindness, and at the same time, we don't have to subject ourselves to, if the people want to treat us badly with judgment and condemnation. We certainly don't have to endure any of that. We can draw boundaries, but I think it just gets back to that point I was making earlier. Just they don't have the moral, spiritual high ground, even if they think they do. And
right.
if they want to think that, let them. But
Sorry, not sorry. And yeah, I don't I lead with love too. I believe in compassion. We talk about compassion a lot, and I feel like it's just so important that we love them no matter what they but you got to have boundaries, man. You got to have boundaries. Um Melanie Williams is saying she just got here, so excited to watch the recording. Love you bunches, Ted.
Melanie,
Everybody loves you, Ted. You're easy to love. You are, and you do also say it like it is, and I love you for that. I just want you to keep doing what you're doing because we all appreciate it. But it's your wisdom. It's the little nuggets of wisdom that you say in such a satirical way that leave us. That's what stays with us. I think I'm only speaking for myself, but I think those are the little nuggets that I'm like, yeah, he was right about that. Whether you like it or not, there's always that little nugget in there. So I appreciate that. But
okay.
my last question. Yeah, I'm going to give you last word because I always give you last word. But my last question for you, unless anybody else has questions out there for you, um, is if somebody, especially a man, but anybody in the world that's out there is laying back. I'm going to post this picture that you sent me today of your darkest day of deep, deep depression. And it was a horrific day for you. I know
Yeah, well,
that.
though it was the months. It wasn't just a day. It was that
True.
entire.
It was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was just that
it
day
was a
was one.
long,
Yeah.
painful process. But my last question to you is if someone is in that pit right now, what would you say to them and what they can do to just take one tiny step forward?
I get a little emotional. Don't give up. Reach out to me. Uh, I'm on Facebook. Be happy to talk to you. Reach out to someone who's going to listen to you. A lot of people are going to tell you what you need to do. They're going to say you need to get exercise or you need to drink herbal tea or whatever it is. They're going to tell you don't have a problem. Find someone who understands, listens to it. Get help. It does get better. Absolutely. We're even now from where we were 5 years ago, there's ketamine. We're finding a lot of hope with psilocybin. I would be happy to talk to anybody about that. But it gets better. It's temporary. That's what I'd say. And by all means, reach out to me or someone, because we're here.
Yeah. I just yeah. You have been I love the fact that you are willing to look at things that are alternative, but definitely are very helpful. And so, if nothing else is working, please reach out to Ted. I just want to say that to anybody that's out there. Um, he's a great guy, and you won't be sorry. Yes, that. Okay, you get last word, my friend. What would you like to leave
Well,
people with today?
well, thank you so much for having me on here. I just think it's, it's not about me. I mean, the millstone thing has been a whole bunch of people, and yeah, it's just really fun to be a part of this whole movement. It's more than fun. It's empowering. It's healing. See all these people just come together. I mean, I was for so long just so ashamed about having been raised in this thing. Like, I remember finally when there was a Wikipedia page about it. That was a big step for me because I joke around a lot, and a lot of times I would tell people about being raised in this. They're like, "Oh, you're just pulling our leg. You're just making this up. Nothing can be." And so I remember the Wikipedia page, and but I didn't ever want to talk about it, even with my wife. My mother-in-law was raised in the Mormon church, and she would want to kind of share stories. I'm like, "Oh." But then when the X2 by 2 group came, or when I found the X2 by 2 group, it's like when we first heard the gospel, when I found the X2 by 2 group, and this was before all the Dean Brewer stuff, even before he died, it was just like so healing for me. Like, oh yeah, like being able to share the stories, talk about it. And then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, I can talk to people about this. I'm not, whatever. It's not as big of a deal. So I think to me, that's what's so cool is just finding all these people that, we're all in the same thing. We understand the process of recovery, and helping people who just have left or are trying to leave. It's like, yes, yeah, it's fun to help because even when I left, there wasn't any of this stuff, but I had a couple friends who had left previously, and that made all the difference. So it's just, yeah, it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I hope people got to know you a little bit more tonight, besides the im- impersonating that you do, which is amazing. But I have just really appreciated knowing the real you. So I hope I wanted everybody else to get to know you as well, on this level. So thank you for that. And we will look forward to your Howard Mooney impersonation. That should be good. And also to the next gospel meeting, of course.
I just want my stuff
But
to all.
yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making us all laugh. And we'll look forward to having you on again sometime. And maybe
Anytime,
we'll have
anytime.
Howard Mooney on. You never
All
know.
right.
All right. Thanks a
Well,
lot,
thank you
Ted.
so much, Crystal.
Yes, you take care.
All right. See you.